Thanks for joining me again today. Got some interesting ones today. Just a reminder, tomorrow, Friday, we'll be handling the metabolic syndrome talk, just to provide some information, a little short one, just because it's a term that gets thrown around quite a bit. So please be sure to tune in or catch the replay on YouTube. So today, a couple of good ones. Digital therapeutics. So I came across an article that was talking about digital therapeutics, think apps or little tips and tricks on our phones that help us out. So it's talking about digital therapeutics in obese people over a 6-month point of time, actually being quite successful for fat loss and weight loss. Just give me one second. There we go. Being quite successful. And I guess one of the important takeaways from that was that it helped to show that a lot of weight loss can be behavioral and not just willpower. I mean, we all have the will to lose weight, but we have to fight those things like the biology, metabolic things inside our body. And, sometimes just behavior learned and inherited over time, behaviors, survival behaviors we have to overcome. So digital therapeutics are, I guess, defined as software interventions, so not just apps, but they're designed to treat disease. In obesity, what we see is these things combine a little bit of psychology, maybe some cognitive behavioral therapy. You might see nutrition tracking things, you might see activity trackers, you might see things that talk about habit forming, like when am I hungry, or even things that prompt you, sort of give you feedback loops. And again, in this journal from February 2025, patients using these digital therapeutics lost more weight, even without medications, than people not using them in the trial. People using medications and the digital therapeutics, as you'd think, did lose more weight. So again, medications, again, not a cheat. They have they're helpful. But again, even without, these digital therapeutics made a difference. And when they kind of deep dived into the study, I think the biggest things they talked about is it took away a lot of decision fatigue. When it comes to a day, you're like, you've worked all day, you've made thousands of decisions, you come home, and one of the last things you want to decide is, what do I want to eat if I haven't already planned it out? Or, I'm hungry, my body's wanting something, I can't figure it out. So these things were really good about that decision fatigue. You don't have to make the decision, because a lot of these may have already planned your meal, or you may have planned your meal and put it in, so you don't have to sort of wing it and decide, standing at the fridge, everything looks good, no. You can be planned. The other thing as well is these apps, they make you accountable, some of them. So if you're having to jot down what you eat, it's going to keep track, and you might start to jot down, I'm going to eat this, and then all of a sudden realize, I don't want to eat that. And so it helps break kind of eating behaviors, or those of us with traumatic childhoods, all of us from the 80s, it behaves that comfort food, that comfort eating, any little behaviors like that. Or, every time I watch a movie late at night, I eat popcorn and ice cream and chocolate. It helps break these little behaviors by helping you think about it. It thinks for you and tells you what to do and not to do. And as well, it helps you improve your adherence to a diet, because you do have something accountable, something you can actually see and go, oh, here's where I went wrong. Next time, talk about that one step, just the next step, what's my next step? And this helps for it. And again, adhering, sticking to a plan. We said, keep it simple. This helps keep it for you. Again, our body is wired for survival. It's wired for survival. And so we have to kind of overcome that little bit of biology to help, especially if our body's stressed, we always talk about. So again, I think with access to all the stuff out there, the internet, apps, and everything, obesity doesn't have to be a knowledge problem. It's how do we behave under stress problem, and we can now deal with that. We've got the knowledge to help us break these things. So I guess in simpler terms, we don't fail our diets because we're lazy. When we're tired or when whatever it is, our brain is naturally going to default to what's the most efficient way to get energy into my body and have energy available for when I have to fight or flight, run or do whatever. And especially when we're under stress. And, you look at life nowadays and there's lots of stress: financial stress, family stress, weight stress, what am I going to eat stress, what am I doing tomorrow, next day, da, 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 da. So there's a lot of reasons for our brain to default. These are just ways to help offload that cognitive load, and it helps. If you'd like a good example of ways we've offloaded other cognitive things, think of GPSs. I mean, when's the one of those big books, open it up, have a look to find the street, look it up and trace your map, maybe write down the things. Now GPS just things for us. Made that a bit easier. Calendar reminders on your phone, little pop-up, hey, tomorrow you got this, in 10 minutes you got this. Gary, 10 minutes you got a live stream, why are you running late? Sorry. So these digital tools work that way. Even phone numbers, just the phone book in your own phone. I think I can only have like 4 phone numbers memorized, where way back a lot more. Yeah. So it's, again, these digital tools, they help make it easier for us to not have to decide, and then we can just focus on, losing weight, enjoying life. What does one of my patients say? Or one of my colleagues, not sorry, one of my patients, one of my colleagues says, he says, weight loss doesn't fail in the gym. It fails on Tuesday night when you're tired. And it's so true. When you're tired, you default to there. And I guess it goes back to, why. We all have the willpower, but if just willpower alone worked, then every New Year's, when everyone makes a New Year's resolution, we'd all be super fit, super rich, written 1,000 books, whatever it is. So it's not willpower. It's sometimes these little obstacles that are in the way. And with weight loss, again, it's, I talked about that comfort eating or little behaviors. Those are little habits that we've picked up over life. And so what we have to do is try to undo those. And our brain loves habits. It doesn't like goals. It's, you say, hey, brain, I want to lose weight, this much weight by this date. Your brain's like, nice. The fridge is 22 steps that way, and it takes this much muscle to open it, and we have food. So I think, it's just, the apps help. They help give us an extra bit of weaponry to fight our weight loss battle. And again, these apps aren't replacing, medical advice or doctors or any of this stuff that we need for our biology. It just helps get rid of that decision fatigue so that we can fight a better fight, fight a fair fight. That's probably a better one, fight a fair fight. All right. What does my other colleague say? He says, your brain at 8 a.m. is not the same brain you have at 9 p.m. So I'd like you guys to notice next time it's 8 in the morning what you're like and what it's like at 9 p.m. How you're doing. Good. Now another topic that I came across, and this one was a quite interesting one in the Journal of Biomedicines in February 2025. It talked about modest weight loss, that's 5 to 15%, is medically great. It's massive. So 5 to 15% weight loss is medically massive. Take that one to the bank. Just losing 5 to 15% of body weight. So this is at the start. This isn't losing that final 5 pounds. This is 5 to 10%, which we'll talk about in a minute. At the start, leads to some great things. It decreases your insulin resistance, decreases your blood pressure, decreases your liver fat, decreases your inflammatory markers, decreases your reliance on medications for insulin resistance, for blood pressure. and decreases your overall cardiovascular risk. So it's great. And another reason it's great is because it's 5 to 15%. It's at the start. You don't need a goal weight, okay, to get health benefits. It's just lose some weight. And just to give you an example, if you're a 60 kilo person, you'd only need to lose 3 to 9 kilos to see these benefits, which is much, or jump to a 120 kilo person, you'd only need to lose 6 kilos to 18 kilos, but 6 kilos to start to see these benefits. And that's not a lot. 5% is not a lot. Again, we're not trying to lose 60 kilos, just 6, okay? And again, the good thing is that this is the first 5 to 10%, and the way our body responds isn't linear. It's not, hey, I lost some weight here, lost some weight here, it gets better. What this study shows is that if we lose a lot of weight at the start, way over here it's a bit harder, and our returns are more probably aesthetic, looks. But this first 5%, just this little bit of time, 5 to 15% of weight, is where we're going to get most of our advantage. Okay. So get started. And I guess part of the question is why, and it goes back to what we talked about in the last couple of days yesterday, is that visceral fat, the fat around our organs. And because those things are so hormonally active, and they are metabolically active, they are a pretty quick energy source within the inside. Just losing, we talked about how we lose that fat first before we lose the other fat. It's going to improve our insulin signaling. It's going to reduce our inflammation. It's going to improve our liver, pancreas functions. So, for a small amount of weight loss, we get great medical outcome. We get oversized medical outcome, which is really great. Well, I guess an easier way to say it is we don't need our body to be skinny. It just needs less toxic fat. And if this was, I guess, an investment, it'd be like an IPO. You're in on the early crypto. You're in on when that thing was founded, not down here. It's that kind of a gain that you're making. You're treating your organs, not Instagram. So that's it. Cool. Sorry, let me see. Why is my question not working? There we go. Okay. Good. So, hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of what we need to just start having a fair fight for our body, for our weight loss, and just, that those first few bits of weight loss are important. It's just a really good time. We had a few questions over there. Sorry, I switch screens. No, that's this mouse. Okay. Why is weight loss so much harder at night? Look, weight loss is hard at night because my tired brain doesn't want salad. My tired brain wants carbs and candy and everything that tastes nice. I don't know about your brain. Tell me what your brain is like. No, I think really the big thing is that it goes back to that cognitive load. You're making decisions all day, and towards the end of the day, you just get decision fatigue. You just kind of want to get through to the next question, to the next answer. And as we start to run out of mental energy, our brain goes from energy-dense foods to more reward-seeking. I answered a question, yay! Let's reward me with food. Great food, yay! Not like I don't want to go have a carrot. Let's go that way. Then that goes back to our sleep talk that we kind of talked about earlier in the deal. Is as you get more tired in the day, our sleep hormones start to kick in and things go reverse. So we get an increase in our hunger hormones. We get a decrease in our satiety hormones. We don't have that wrapped in to kind of help settle things down. So as we get more tired, our body just gets a bit confused. So a little bit of just kind of everything working against us. What's another one we got here? If I know what to eat, why don't I do it? If I don't know what to eat, if I know what to eat, why don't I do it? Knowledge lives in the smart brain, okay? Hunger lives in our survival brain, and the two of those really don't communicate well. My survival brain, it does not read the nutrition label. It knows what it wants. It wants sugar. No, I think basically it's subcortical. So it's going to be not the prefrontal cortex, not the part that makes us better than animals. It's actually our animal brain that's driving hunger. And when we get stressed and fatigued, this part of our brain, which requires a lot of energy, kind of just goes, look, survival brain, you handle it. I'm checking out. And so our survival brain, animal brain, dinosaur brain, it overrides all of that and just says, this is what we're going to do. My digital plan, my logic, me knowing not to eat the whole block of chocolate in just 2 squares, out the window. And that's why you find that just providing education isn't always going to work, because knowledge brain, survival brain. Again, it's important to have education so you know what to do. It's important to know what to set up so that we can fight our survival brain for food, fight our survival brain for the right food. That makes sense. Okay. Why do weekends undo my progress? Oh, the weekend. I guess I talked earlier about how our body loves habits. So the weekends undo our progress because routines protect our behavior. The weekends, they just throw those routines out the window and add snacks. They do. They knock those routines out of the way, and so our body, when we're tired, has a way to go, or has a go-to, and when that's disrupted, it doesn't know where to go, so it goes to the survival brain. I grew up in a military family, and so with the military, one of the big things is, the more you bleed in training, the less you bleed in combat. And you see in boot camp and all of that, they train until these people are exhausted and fatigued. And the reason they do that is they train these people well enough so that when they are completely fatigued and the brain is shut down, the survival brain or whatever it is knows what to do with a bit of knowledge, knows what to do, what that next thing is, knows how to keep going to survive, in a war or whatever. It's the same with our body. We have to build habits, break bad habits, build these habits, these routines so even when we get fatigued, our brain knows what to do. Our survival brain can't just really take over. It can just be like, please, how about now? It has a way to go, and that's what we got to work on. So that's why weekends undo our progress. Plus they have snacks. I guess as well with the weekends, let me add one more just to tie it into the week. We always talk about being consistent, so that kind of goes to our routines. But how many of us on the weekend, hooray, it's the weekend, I don't have to get up early, so we stay up late. We probably don't sleep in if you got kids, like come in, or you got things you want to do, go to the markets, go for a hike, those kind of things. So we know that disrupting our sleep is going to mess with our hormones, mess with our hunger, and mess with things. So I think that we just have to be a bit more conscious, because then we might overeat, we might do whatever, go to that barbecue, go to that birthday party. There's a lot of things that are thrown up, just snacks. So we just have to try to do our best. Okay, some people are perfect, not me. No one is really perfect, right? So just do your best. That's all you can do. Why do I crave sugar when I'm stressed? Okay. Stress, okay, hits the brain. Basically, stress turns our brain into a toddler who wants snacks. And, you're just screaming, wailing, that's my brain, and that's it when the sugar is involved. biologically, what stress does is it increases cortisol, that stress hormone. And what that does is that we talked about how the stress with our visceral fat, but the stress hormone, cortisol, it goes, okay, it makes us hold more sugar in our bloodstream. So we get higher insulin spikes, so we feel that sugar. And our body's not able to use it as well. And so it says, well, we must need more sugar. And so it's telling us, eat more sugar, eat more sugar, eat more sugar. And it's also going, well, then other parts of our body go, well, we've already got all this sugar. We should be shoving it to muscles. Oh, if should already be there, okay, no, let's just shove it into fat. Let's shove it into fat. Let's store it for later when we need to run. That's going to be our visceral fat, which is going to perpetuate that cycle. It's also going to be storing in our subcutaneous, our aesthetic, or pretty fat. And so because of that signaling from cortisol, it's going to make those sugary, sweet, really palatable foods, tasty sweets, more rewarding. So it's really, it's not us having a lack of discipline when it comes to sugar. It's more a neuroendocrine. It's a brain hormone thing. Okay, and hopefully that's where we have education enough, habits enough, apps enough, everything enough, or no sugar in the house to make these things happen. But it's okay. Sometimes we all have a little snack, and you know what? We work on it the next day, the next time. Why do digital apps or digital tools and apps help with weight loss? Like I said before, they do the thinking for you when our brains checked out. So again, they externalize all the stuff we have to do, the planning, the choosing, the food, the exercise. They give us feedback if we're doing something right. They give us a reward for something that's not food or calorie oriented. So the support's a bit more structured and less reliant on our memory and our habits by kind of cheating. So it's a sweet cheat, I guess. Why does my body fight weight loss? Oh, yeah, no, I love this. Look, it's because your body thinks a famine is coming and not Uber Eats. No, yeah, we fight less. It's the big thing. It's an adaptive response. Our survival brain is so strong, and it's just saying, look, in the event of, we better have a backup plan, and that's fat and energy. And so the only way we can get fat and energy is by eating. So let's increase our appetite. Let's decrease our fullness. Let's just keep shoving it in so that I have plenty of that to deal with surviving. Where our knowledge brain, it's like, hey, can we just slow down a little bit? But survival does kind of, it's the bigger, older brother, stronger brother. And again, this is just evolution. That's just how we come. I guess our bodies didn't quite evolve expecting so much available food, so much easy, sweet, free food. I mean, I was even thinking of my grandparents who, the 50s, 40s, whatever, how much food did they actually eat? And when I sit to think about it, I'm like, oh, but my grandfather had a glass of milk every night. He probably had that and a little bit with a sensible small bowl of cereal, or he had 2 eggs and a small piece of toast for breakfast. He worked hard throughout the day. Their dinners were really sensible. Plenty of vegetables, small little main. They kept it reasonable. And that's things where, nowadays, we get something and we want value. So it's got to be huge size portions. I'm guilty. I love it. Cut it in half, save half for tomorrow for lunch. There's a sweet cheat. So I think, why does my body fight weight loss? We're just evolved that way, and society does for other people who are evolved quite differently, which, maybe down the line we'll see. Why am I hungry right after eating sometimes? Why do I feel hungry after eating sometimes? I guess the big thing is that the hormone for fullness, satiety, and the hormone for just being satisfied are quite different. So it's more of a battle of, we're not feeding this lion or this wolf, we're feeding this wolf, or not feeding this wolf, and this one doesn't really care. So it's a bit weird. Also, when those do tie in with the gut hormones and the gut-brain connection, it takes a while for stretch receptors, for our body, once we have eaten, to tell the brain, we're good. So slow eating, that sometimes can help if you eat a bit slower. So anyway, let me run today. I've kept you guys long enough. Thanks for tuning in again. Tomorrow we'll talk about metabolic syndrome, just to give some more education. And then whatever little random article I run across. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow a little bit after 5 at Teletrin.